are talking with Jenna and Najjar today about a subject that actually I want to learn about because I feel like it is hard for adults. And it's a weird topic for us to talk about in therapy. Sort of, not real super weird, but it's a little bit like it doesn't seem like it would be to most people, it would be something that therapists would talk about. But we actually end up talking about this idea of how adults make friends in their adulthood and how that happens because it's a big deal to a lot of people. So Jenna, let's maybe just start there. Like what what is this comes up a lot for clients, right? Like why do you think this is a topic that gets talked about a whole lot with clients?
So much. It comes up all the time. And so adults have a really hard time learning how to make friends, whether they've moved to a new city or they've had a lot of life changes. Maybe they've gotten married or had kiddos, and then they find themselves realizing that the one part of their life that they are lacking in is adult friendships. And so we end up talking about how to rebuild connections and meet new people.
Yeah, and it is very, very difficult. I think we learn, I don't know about you, but like my primary friendships came from school, around being people around in childhood and in adolescence. Even in college, it was around being around people on a almost daily basis, in a lot of senses. And that's how I learned where to make friends, where to go for friends. And it has been as I've gotten older, all of those transition points that you talked about, moving, even moving within the same city, but to a different neighborhood. Kids is a big deal. And obviously, the pandemic affected this a lot. I think most people, I don't know about you, but most people that I've talked to, their friendship group is different in some way than it was prior to the pandemic. But that's really difficult. And friendships are really valuable. Can you talk a little bit about that? About like what, especially when it comes to our mental health and our mental well-being, why friendships are so valuable and important?
Yeah, I like to describe friendships as being like a vitamin that we need to survive. And sometimes people are low on that vitamin on a daily basis. And so they need to kind of figure out places to get that. And so some of the times where that comes across is not having other people to talk to about what's going on in your life, feeling
Mhm.
like maybe your partner's the only person that they talk to about things, and getting kind of an expansive response on things that are going on in your life. So not just having one place you go to, but being able to rely on multiple people for that kind of like shared experience of like, this was really hard in
Mm.
my week, or I'm really excited about this thing. Can I celebrate it with you this week? Having a
Oh.
variety of that sources is really helpful.
Yeah, and I think everybody's really different about whether, needing one or two friends or you want a big group of friends. And you, by the way, do this better than anybody I know. Your friend and your friend group are amazing. And the that importance of what you're talking about to me is like just a strong support network. And there's two pieces of this, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this. Like to me, it feels like, and you mentioned this a little bit, but this need for being able to have people that we can turn to when things feel really difficult. And that includes big and small stuff, people that'll help us move, people that we can talk to, people
Mhm.
that will help us out when we need somebody when there's a crisis and we need somebody to watch our kids because we have to take the car in or
Mhm.
go to the doctor or things like that. But then there's also that piece of people that will celebrate with us,
Mhm.
outside of our immediate family. Like that feels huge and important when things are going well, when we get promotions, when we accomplish things that we've been wanting to accomplish, when we anything that's like that feels really, really important. And so what like thinking through those functions of friendships, which ones stand out to you, which ones feel really valuable and important to you?
I think they're both equally important, right? The person that's going to be there when, you didn't get the job you were going for, or the person that's going to be there when your dog gets sick and you need help, getting them to the vet. And also the person that's going to celebrate your wins and going to,
Mhm.
be there for you when you got the promotion or when you bought a new house and you're going to
Yeah.
have you want to invite people over. Like, we are social beings, and I think people are really readjusting to their life post post pandemic, the pandemic is not necessarily like over. We are still in a new era of adjusting the life in this new way.
Mm,
And so how do we integrate that back in a healthy way? And so that doesn't mean you have to have a certain number of friends in order to be healthy, or you have to
right.
hang out with people a certain number of hours per week, but having a way to say like, oh, this is an area of my life that I have to give attention to. Just like anything
Mm,
else, if you want to work on exercising or something else, you have to put attention to it.
yeah. And I think that's a good point too, because I think it's one of those areas that we tend to neglect, and because of how what we were talking about before, the ways that we've tended to make friends in the past, we don't really think about it. We don't think about how we are nurturing that part of our lives. And so then a lot of times one of those big transitions happen, and all of a sudden we go, "Oh wait, I'm missing something. What is it?" And it's
Yeah.
our friendships have either changed or evolved, or all of a sudden are just not as easily available
Right.
to be around as we had once anticipated. So talk to me a little bit about what are the things that you talk to clients about where there feels like this is an area that's missing as an adult. How do I begin to go about making friends and building and nurturing that part of our lives?
Yeah, I like to focus on something like an activity or a thing that my client will get a benefit out of, whether they make a friend or not doing. So, what's something they're excited to do? And hopefully, there'll be other like minded people doing that same thing, whether it's, going to a coffee shop that has like a board game night, or going to signing up for a class that they want to take, or volunteering on the weekend, so that either way, if they don't make a friend, it's still a bonus activity that they are enjoying doing, and it brings them some positive, effect in their life. And then a win would be like if they meet somebody else that's also liking that thing, like, oh
Mhm.
wow, we both volunteered for this same event that's happening this weekend. Somebody similar to you that would like the same things.
Yeah, that feels to me like that's also I like that idea of you're not necessarily doing those things to get friendship out of it, but you're doing those that you're increasing your opportunity to to create new friendships, and hopefully you're doing something that you really love to do as well.
Yeah.
I think that's really great.
Right. I like to remind people, I think it can be really intimidating when they're putting themselves out there in this new way that they maybe have never had to, because they got their friends through school or some other group that was pretty built in. Now they have to kind of navigate the waters without that set
Mhm.
formula. And so to kind of remind yourself that there are other people that are also looking for friends that are in their
Mm.
adulthood. So it's not that sometimes people can sense the waters as being not as hostile, as not welcoming, or that they're the only
Mm.
one that feels this way. And that kind of mindset can lead to us closing inward as opposed to being open to seeing like, oh, I run into the same person. We both pick up our CSA box at the same time on
Yeah.
Thursday, and I run into them every time. And so I'm not opening up to like that there's other people that also want this thing.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I think that's a big shift in mindset, right? Of like looking for people, and being open to that, and not keeping your head down all the time, like I do at my gym, where I just don't want to talk to anybody, and I'm just zeroed in on what I'm doing. There may be people at my gym that I could be friends with, and I need to lift my head up to speak and kind of look around and
Right.
notice
If we
other people that
remember
are
that
there.
other people want friends too, and that we are not bothering them or burdening them, but maybe
Mm,
what if they also are looking for a friend too?
yeah.
And it's a mutual thing that we both want out of this, as opposed to I'm bothering someone.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder too, that like to be able to uh, make friends, we have to also be a friend, so to speak. I mean, I think that's fairly cliched type of way of looking at it, but I do think like I would love people to say something to me sometimes and to like extend that friendship, and I need to be able to do the same thing
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
them as well.
Yeah, that is a really helpful point as well. I always remind people too of like asking open-ended questions, or ask people love to talk about themselves. So if
Yeah.
you ask a couple, it's not impeding on someone's privacy. It's really being curious about them.
Mm.
So if you open that up to being curious about them, it kind of brings a connection of like, I'm interested in you, and I think that I would love to learn more about you or find out if we could be friends.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much because I do think it requires that shift in perspective as well.
Mhm.
Other tips? Anything else you feel like would be important to know about creating friendships?
Just remind yourself that it takes time. And so I think people
Mm,
get really hard on themselves when it doesn't happen right away. And friendships
mm,
to build up, and it takes hours of connection and attempts. And sometimes there's a lot of things that get in the way of that. And so
yeah.
just to remind yourself that it takes time and that you're not doing it wrong if you're having a hard time making friends.
Yeah, I love that as well. And I think there was something somebody reminded me too that I just thought of as you were talking that I think is important as well is like it's important to nurture there's probably somebody in your circle, right? That relationship is just not being nurtured in a friendship type way. That could
Mhm.
really be an avenue to make friends. So I would also even say just like start with the people that you're around
Yeah.
naturally. It may be somebody at work, it may be somebody like you said, like we said, that you run into on a regular basis. But there's somebody in your life that maybe that if with a little nurturing that there could be a deeper friendship that grew there. And I think that's any relationship, romantic, platonic, otherwise, has to have time and has to have consistency, right? So being able to spend time with people is really kind of a key point there, I think, as well.
Yeah. Start with somebody that's already maybe in a circle of acquaintancy and see if they can move closer.
Hmm. Yeah, that's perfect.
Mm.
Love that. Jenna, thank
Mhm.
you so much. If you want to know more or want more steps, Jenna has a great blog up about building friendships in your adult life. I know I have some things now that I am going to go try and do and venture out there. And so if you need more of that, that is available on the blog. If you want to talk to somebody more about this, this is a valid reason to come to therapy. It's something that many people come in for of just looking to talk it out with somebody that can help them kind of maybe see some areas of their life that could open up. And so we have openings available across the board with all of our therapists. So check that out at matthewscounseling.net. Jenna,
Mhm.
thanks again. Everybody else, we'll see you next time.